Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla, and today I'm going to talk about birth. I'm going to talk about what I wish I would have known before going into labor with my first. I have 5 kids. I stay at home with them. I've homeschooled them all the way through. My oldest is 11, and I was 22 when I got pregnant with her. And my husband and I were so excited to be pregnant. We did the nursery. We painted the walls pink. We bought all of the clothes that you could think of, the cute bows, all of it. But one thing that we did not do before birth and labor was research. We did not do any of that. So when I began to have contractions and I went into labor, we were completely caught off guard. So anyways, I just kind of want to share. I wrote down 7 things. I'm sure there are more, but I wrote down 7 things that I wish I would have known before going into labor with my first. So here we go. First, it's going to take a long time. So the stories you hear about women going into labor and then having their baby on the side of the road, I did have a friend that did that. But anyways, she was not having her first. It is very, very rare, first of all, for you to have a fast labor. I don't know the exact statistics, but I'm pretty sure first time moms, the average is like 12 hours to 24 hours. For me, my first took over 24 hours from the very beginning to like having her. So going into it knowing that it's going to be long and to just steady, like pace yourself is going to be such a benefit to you, because if it happens to go a little faster, that's just going to be like icing on the cake. But if you're prepared to be in labor for 24 hours, you're going to take things slow. You're not going to panic. You're not going to freak out. You're not going to rush. You're going to realize, okay, we have time. Let me stay calm. So knowing that it's going to take a long time is going to help you so much. For me, I just did not know what to expect at all. So in my first labor, or my first birth, I started having contractions and immediately wanted to go into the hospital within 2 hours. That's where I was planning to have my baby. And they sent me back home. And that is such a defeating feeling when you are in labor, to think, oh my goodness, it's happening. We're about to meet our baby. And then going in and being like, you got to go home because you might not even have your baby for another couple days. What? So do not do that to yourself. Just relax. It's going to take a long time if it's your first, most likely. You might be the rare person, but probably not. Just go ahead and assume that you're not the rare person that is going to have a fast labor. Your body has never done this before, and so it knows what to do 100%. It's just going to take time. So knowing that. Second, if you are wanting to avoid interventions, which that's another thing that's later on my list, knowing what interventions are. If you're wanting to avoid interventions, and a lot of these are really just based on if you're planning on having your baby in a hospital. So I'll do a whole nother video of like birth stories, my 5 birth stories. But I was planning on having my baby in the hospital, and my first ended up being a C-section. So I had to, well, I didn't have to, but a lot of midwives, like home birth midwives, wouldn't take me after having a C-section. So I had all of my children in a hospital, but all of their labors and births looked completely different. I had VBACs with all of my next 4. So my first was definitely the most medical birth that I had. And so these are just things I wish I would have known before going into that. So the benefits of staying home longer, if you're planning on going to a hospital and having your baby in the hospital and you want to avoid interventions, the longer you stay home, the better. Trust me. Once you get into that hospital, you are taking up a room. You are on the clock, whether they say that or not, you are on the clock. They're going to want to see some progress. And so if you are a person that takes a while to push your baby out, then you are going to be watched and not comfortable. It's a hospital. So it does feel very sterile. There are limits. They will try to pressure and put certain limits on about eating and all of that. And so just staying at home, relaxing, just remembering this is going to take a while. Let me calm down. Let me take a nap. Let me relax. Let me take a shower. Let me take a bath in my own bath, because hospital baths, hospital showers are not the same. So staying home as long as possible before you go into the hospital. If you're planning on having your baby at the hospital, if you're planning on staying home, good for you. I think that that's a great decision. So the next is learning what dilation, effacement, and baby position are, and the difference, and why you need all three in order to push your baby out. So most women, well, I wouldn't say most, but I have talked with quite a few women who are pregnant who don't even really know what dilation is. And then you say the word effacement and they're just completely lost. Research. Do your research. Know how your body works. Because when you go into labor, when the midwife or the doctor comes in and checks you and says, you are 7 centimeters dilated, but you're only about 40% effaced, you're going to be so confused. What does that mean? And not only confused, but you might get super excited that you're 7 centimeters dilated, but you need it all to work together in order for baby to come out. Effacement is your cervix thinning. The dilation is how like dilated you are. Everybody has seen the 10 centimeter dilation chart, but you need all these things to work together. So know how your body works. Do the research of your own body before you go into the hospital, because you don't want to have a false excitement, of, oh, things are moving super fast, but in reality, they are progressing, but you still have a little while. So the next thing is pushing. I just wish somebody would have been really blunt and frank with me. And by somebody, I mean another woman that has had a baby, that when you're pushing, just poop. Just either don't try to like figure out where you're supposed to push. Like, you're like, I don't know. I just remember being so confused. Like, you're telling me to push, but I've never pushed anything out of that hole before. Sorry to be frank, but no, just literally push like you're pooping and the baby does the work. Like that's the right way to push. So don't overthink it. Just literally push down on your butt like you are pushing out the biggest poop of your life. Okay. Number 5, I wrote info research. So the moral of the story is do your research, but specifically do your research on interventions, epidural, episiotomy, Pitocin, then do your research on things like C-section and the risk and benefits of a C-section, the risk and benefits of a vacuum being used to help assist the baby out. Like an episiotomy, I already mentioned, a lot of women don't know what that is. That's when they cut you in order for the baby to come out. Sometimes, like with shoulder dystocia, they'll use that, but there's some doctors out there that use episiotomies as a regular just practice without without it being necessary. So just doing your research on the risk and benefits. You don't want to go into labor and not know what people are talking about, what the doctor is talking about. You really, really want to know what's going on within your body and what are the words that people are using around you, because knowledge is power, and the more you know, the better. So I was at a birth. I'm a doula, by the way. I did not mention that at the beginning of the video, but I am a doula, and I've been assisting women giving birth for quite a few years. This past year was when it started picking up more. My kids are getting a little older, and I'm able to commit to doing that more often. But I was at a birth over the summer, and so before going into labor, if I'm working with a couple, I will definitely talk about advocating for yourself and just, the risk, asking the doctor or the midwife or the nurse the risk or benefits of things that they are suggesting if you're having your baby in a hospital. And I was at a birth, and so the husband, you have all this information before you go in, but when you get in the moment, you are so nervous. There's so much going on. Sometimes you forget the words that you've learned, that you forget the stuff that you've learned. And so the she was begging for some pain relief. The nurse was like, well, we can just get an epidural. We'll go ahead and call it, da da da. And the husband just had this look of panic. So I reminded him in the room, why don't you ask the risk and benefits of the epidural? Just let's and then at that point, make your decision. It is your decision. It is your choice. It also is super important that you know what you're signing up for before you say yes to something. They in hospitals, they're so used to women asking for epidurals that they don't do an explanation of what it is, what are the risks and benefits, unless you ask. So this is a true story. And this is no shade on nurses, because there's some nurses that are absolutely amazing. I've worked with some nurses that know more about birth than some doulas I know. But then I've worked with some nurses that don't. So the husband asked, what are the risks of her getting an epidural right now? The nurse said, well, she might not be able to walk for a few hours. So I was waiting, like, is she going to continue with the other risks? Like the heart rate dropping for the baby if the baby does not respond well to the epidural, the possibility of spinal injury. I mean, it's a low risk, but it's still a risk for the mom. The catheter that she's going to need to get. I mean, the statistics of C-section rate goes up when you have the epidural. These are all things to take into consideration when getting epidural. But no, the nurse just said you might not be able to walk for a few hours. So knowing what these words mean and the risk and benefits before you go in is just so important, because then you will set your mind to, okay, that's an absolute no for me, or yes, if I've been in labor for this many hours and I just feel like I can't go on, you can set those boundaries for yourself. But having the information is power. So the next one is, I'm a little biased on this, but even before becoming a doula, I would have highly recommended this. The importance of having a doula, a friend, a sister, another woman in the room, particularly a woman who has had a baby before. I think that all women are great, even a person that has never had a baby, but having another woman in the room. So I love my husband, and he is basically like a male doula. He knows so much about birth. He has been with me and held my hand and just carried me through each of my births. But he's not a woman. He's never had a period. He doesn't know what having a uterus or a vagina feels like. And so having my sister, I asked my sister to be at my third birth, and it was a total game changer. So this is what I wish I would have known before going into my first. Number one, a doula in particular will help to educate you beforehand on just being able to advocate for yourself and the research that you should know. Number two, being in labor, your husband, even if he is the most involved person in the world, he's holding your hand. What happens if you're in the middle of a contraction and they're coming back to back and he has to go pee? You are literally just by yourself. And so having a doula there is just practically a second person that can go get ice, go get water, hold your hand while your husband pees, supports him if he has been standing this whole time in a squat position. Maybe switch out. Your eyes are closing. If you're comfortable with your doula, you're okay with either one. Particularly having a woman in the room is just so encouraging. A woman that has given birth before, because she's there and just a reminder that you can get through this, that she's done it and you're not dying and you can get through this. And also, before having my first, the doctors are coming in, they're saying stuff. I don't know what's going on. The nurse, she's in and out. It was a busy night at a busy hospital. So I barely saw my nurse. It was literally just me and my husband in this room. We're 22. We have no idea what's going on. We have done zero research. He's just as scared as I am. There is no comfort in that. There is no peace of I've done this before. I know what's going on. Because you're like, what the heck is going on? The machine is beeping, the heart rate, they're coming in saying they're checking the heart rate. It can be a setup for panic. in that situation. So a woman in the room just brings the calm, the peace, the help, the practical help. I mean, I could go on and on about all the reasons having a woman in the room is so helpful. Having my sister in the room with me when I was having my third, she has not she had C-section with all three of her babies, but when I tell you, she is, and she's never taken any training on doula or like any, she has never read one book about birth. She's had three kids though. um, but just having that nurturing comfort in the room, because she is my comfort person, we're so close, and I just feel so safe when I'm with her, made all the difference. So just having a woman in the room, your mom, your best friend, whoever's your safe person, not somebody that brings you stress, but particularly having a doula who knows information. I heard it described like this, and I think this is the best way to describe it. Your husband is who knows you best. The doula knows birth. Together, you're a power team. He knows you, she knows birth. So combined, it's like you're winning. Okay. And then the last thing, this video is getting kind of longer. I thought it was going to be quick, but birth is normal. Birth is natural. Women have been doing it since the beginning of time. Repeating that to yourself, knowing that before you go into labor, will help you so much. And watching videos, just go to YouTube, type in natural childbirth. Watching real videos of real women giving birth, the more you watch, the better. The more you see real birth and watching it, it changes everything, because then it becomes way less scary. It builds your confidence, and you just realize, like, so many people have done this before. I'm not going to stress, this is not a medical thing. This is not a medical thing that our society and people around us make it out to be. This is normal. This is natural. Women are having babies in other countries that absolutely have nobody telling them when to push. It's just so natural and so normal. So anyways, I cannot stress that enough. Watching videos, watching other women give birth, because most likely, just like me, before I had my first, my mom didn't really even talk about giving birth. I mean, nobody had given me any kind of advice or anything. I was just going into it completely blind. So after having my first and her being a C-section, I went on a just crazy research, extravaganza, because I felt like I had got. I felt like I had went into the hospital and got, emotionally kind of abused in the situation. Partly I was mad at the hospital and the medical field. Partly I was mad at myself, for not doing the research and for not knowing just how my own body works. And so just cannot stress these things enough. Do your research, watch videos of other women, know that it is normal, and just take it serious. It's so much more important than your nursery, than your pretty clothes, than your baby shower, any of that. Afterward, you are going to remember that day or those days leading up to you giving birth to your child more than you will remember any other thing in your life. Every detail will be locked in. So you want it to be a beautiful, peaceful day, but most importantly, you want to be the one that has made the decisions that you're making. You don't want to feel like in the end that somebody told you what to do instead of you making the choice. So I hope these help, and I will do more videos on birth, and I should share each of my birth stories. I think that would be cool, because I don't know everything, and I never claim to, but I have learned a lot through my journey, and a lot of it was through the mistakes I made. So I would love to share those with y'all. So I hope this helps, and comment, and subscribe, but also comment any other videos that you would like to see on birth or being a doula or labor, any of that. So I would love to just share what I know